Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So today we're going to be talking about something up here in notifications. The latest ban list just dropped today, well, yesterday at the time this video is going out. It's been a few hours since the list has dropped at the time I'm recording this, and we're going to be diving right on into it. Of course, this is a ban list directly in response to the latest World Championship Qualifier, or WCQ as I'm going to call it, and it definitely shows here, right? Because if we take a look at all the cards that got hit, you can see a pretty emergent theme among them. We have 3 limits to various Kewl Tune cards. We have Kewl Tune Rotary going from 3 copies down to 1, Kewl Tune Reco going from 3 copies down to 2, and Kewl Tune Mix also going from 3 copies down to 2. Now, Kewl Tune cards are not the only ones that got limited. In fact, Super Polymerization going down from 3 copies to 2 as well. And finally, we have TG Hyper Librarian, the only unlimit on this very short ban list, going from 1 copy up to 3. Now, it makes a lot of sense why Kewl Tune is being hugely targeted after this latest event. If you didn't play in the WCQ, or if you've been living under a rock, then let's go ahead and take a look at this pie chart here over on roadoftheking.com. Got this very nice pie chart from the World Championship 2026 qualifiers for Master Duel. And as you can see, the top 100 decks breakdown very clearly favors Kewl Tune. It is by far, in a landslide, the most represented deck. Over half of the top 100 decks, 55.6% were on Kewl Tune. After that is Radiant Typhoon at 14.5%. Most were playing a Zodiac engine, but I believe the winning list actually by Ryan Yu, if we scroll down here. Oh no, he was on a... Oh no, yeah, so Radiant Typhoon, but no Zodiac stuff. So yeah, even though there was only one Radiant Typhoon list that didn't use Zodiac, it was the one that got first place. Very interesting. After that, we have Sky Striker at 12.0, Branded 8.1, and the others category at 9.8%. But yeah, definitely makes sense why we're seeing Kewl Tune hit so heavily here. But are these actually good hits to Kewl Tune? The first limit of Rotary down to 1, I think is fantastic. It's really, really easy to point at Rotary as kind of a lot of the problems with Kewl Tune, right? And even if you're only, a Master Duel player and you've never played, paper play, TCG, or OCG, then that might sound a little bit confusing, right? But the reason it's so obvious is because if you look back at paper play, Kewl Tune Rotary was part of the second wave of support. It was Rotary, Back-to-Back, and Crackle, I believe, were the 3. And yeah, I mean, before Rotary came along, and Back-to-Back definitely, added a lot too, don't get me wrong, but before Rotary came along, Kewl Tune was like a somewhat meta deck, like maybe tier 3, debatably tier 2, but kind of struggled to keep up with the rest of the meta. Rotary is a huge leap in terms of that power jump, right? Because not only is this another searcher, it's also level 1, which Kewl Tune did not have a level 1 tuner before Rotary came out. And moreover, probably the most egregious thing here is that it gives you a free peek at your opponent's hand when you search. And obviously, that kind of information on turn 1, combined with Kewl Tune Q, looking at the top card of your opponent's deck and choosing to keep it there or not, is going to be extremely powerful, giving you perfect information of how to play into the opponent's hand. And for that reason, I really do think Rotary deserved to go to 1. This was probably the easiest call. I'm pretty sure they just did this limit in the OCG as well, so that's definitely all well and good. Now for the other hits here, we have both Kewl Tune Reco as well as Kewl Tune Mix, each going to 2. So Reco is a starter for Kewl Tune. By searching up the Rotary, you can go into full combo. So this makes sense for me, this going to 2. Mix is a little bit more confusing, I'll be honest, because I've even seen Kewl Tune builds that opts to play only 2 copies of this card, and this card is not really a starter in the same sense that Reco or Q are, right? Like if you normal summon Mix and you have no other, even tuners in your hand, right? Like the best you could do is add Reco and then go into the remix to then be able to not only get the Mix and Reco monster and spell trap pops respectively, but then also go into RS to have that negate, which is still pretty solid, don't get me wrong, but The fact that Kewl Tune Mix can't search another level 2 tuner means it can't go into the track maker by itself, which again means this doesn't really end up operating as a starter. So I'm a little confused as to why Mix had to go to 2. Granted, I understand that at the end of the day it's a consistency hit, but also, again, there were definitely some Kewl Tune builds out there that were only opting to play 2 Mix. Granted, I think that was a lot more common before Synchro Overtake got limited, but still a little bit confusing for me there. I think that overall these hits to Kewl Tune are fine. Don't get me wrong, Kewl Tune absolutely need to be hit as a deck, for sure. I'm not, questioning that at all. I'm not questioning Rotary going to 1. As mentioned before, I think this is a slam dunk hit. But these semi-limits I'm a little bit more, I guess, apprehensive about. And I'm also someone who's not hated consistency hits in the past, right? I don't think consistency hits are a blanket inherently bad thing. I really don't like taking stances like that, like saying this is always a bad thing on ban list. I just don't really like absolutionist statements like that in general. I feel like nuance is something that's very lost among not just Yu-Gi-Oh players, but people in general. It's really important to keep that nuance in mind. There are some decks and some scenarios where I do think consistency hits are fine. Here, I think instead of these 2 cards each going to 2, we should have seen Kewl Tune Synchro also go to 1. I think Kewl Tune Synchro is a really ridiculous card in the archetype. It's not only a Rhoda, but it also gives you a Synchro Summon as a quick play spell, which is obviously insane. And it's not even once per turn. Being 2 copies per turn comes up all the time when you open one, and you can open one, set another, or search another Kewl Tune Synchro and set both and be able to use both on your opponent's turn. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely too much. And I really do think it was Kewl Tune Synchro that needed to go to 1 for those reasons. Would have not only been a consistency hit, but also a hit to the Kewl Tune, overall power level. Because again, you have a ton of hands where you open a starter plus Kewl Tune Synchro, and then just get to have 2 of those face down, letting you play pretty much however you want on the opponent's turn. I think that Rekko going to 2 is fine, though. I don't hate this. Again, Mix going to 2, this I'm not a big fan of. I don't think this is going to have nearly enough impact on Kewl Tune. Perhaps in addition to these hits, you'll notice it very slightly, but I would be shocked if any Kewl Tune player loses because they don't have the 3rd copy of Mix. I have a really hard time seeing that be the difference, right, between making or losing a game. Alright, as far as the other hits, I guess in Unlimiteds here, we can just talk about Hyper Librarian real quick because it'll take 2 seconds. This is fine, completely irrelevant. Synchron could already FTK without, 3 Hyper Librarian. If you really want to make a second Hyper Librarian, as part of your Synchron combo and deep draw your entire deck, I don't think that's really any more egregious than what decks that are already playing Hyper Librarian can currently do. This is completely fine. And then Super Poly going from 3 to 2. I think this is fine. I'm generally a fan of this. Super Poly among board breakers is exceptionally powerful, not only for it being a quick play spell, meaning you can set it turn 1, obviously making it a lot more versatile and in turn useful in the Master Duel's Best of 1 format, but yeah, the simple fact that neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, that's pretty absurd. Now, granted, there are other board breakers that have this kind of effect. You could easily point to Forbidden Droplet and be like, okay, if Super Poly is egregious, why isn't Forbidden Droplet? And the reason is that Forbidden Droplet is a lot more conditional, right? You have to send the right kind of cards to not have your Droplet get responded to. And not only that, Droplet is a lot more costly. You have to send 1 card per negate you want to, do. But Super Poly is just 1 discard. You could fuse away 2 or even 3 or more of your opponent's monsters. With Branded, how many times in a Branded mirror match have you had your whole board turned into the dragon that devours the dogma, right? Very, very, very potent board breaker, and I think it does warrant going to 2. I think it is kind of funny they only hit Super Poly after the Fallen and the Virtuous came out. I think you could make an argument that Fallen and the Virtuous is an even better board breaker than Super Poly, but that is very, very, not only deck, but also situationally dependent, so I don't think it's a fair comparison to say. Certainly Fallen and the Virtuous is even more versatile than Super Poly, not only being a quick play spell, but also letting you destroy any one card. But of course it targets, it only destroys face-up cards, right? And it only gets rid of one, whereas Super Poly can, again, potentially, in the right scenario, eat an entire board. All in all, though, I'm not sad to see Super Poly go to 2. I think it's deserved. I think this card even going to 1 would be warranted, especially because if you look at upcoming sets in the future, there are about to be so many more Super Poly targets, right? The new Elemental Hero Flame Wingman from the Overframe collection is insane. Even in the latest rounds of OCG reveals, or no, that was a TCG exclusive card, right? The fusion monster that's materials are a spellcaster plus any non-spellcaster, right? Like, as time goes on, fusion monsters requirements to fuse, like their fusion materials rather, are just getting more and more easy to fulfill, which I don't think is inherently a bad thing for fusion decks, but with Super Poly being around, that starts to become a lot more of a problem. So I wouldn't mind Super Poly even going to 1 or possibly even 0, as more of these good targets for it tend to come out in the future. So I think this hit is fine. Now, is there anything not on here rather, that I think should be, right? If we go back to this, pie chart breakdown here, we're seeing a lot of Radiant Typhoon, and not just Radiant Typhoon as an archetype, but also within Sky Striker. A lot of these Sky Striker builds are, let me see if I can find an example of one. In the top 10. Yeah, here we go. Radiant Typhoon Sky Striker. Yeah, obviously a lot of these Sky Striker builds are not just playing Radiant Typhoon Vision, but a lot of them are also on Swen and Eldum as well. So I've seen some arguments that there should have been some hits to Radiant Typhoon for its representation here, but I'm not quite so certain of that, right? I've also seen people say Sky Striker could get hit. I think people are mostly looking at like, oh, these are the top 3 decks, these should all get hit. But it's also important to realize and, acknowledge why these cards, or why these archetypes rather, are doing so well. Sky Striker in particular has a fantastic matchup against Kewl Tune, and Radiant Typhoon is also not that bad against it either. Sky Striker in particular has a lot of ways to kind of circumvent Kewl Tune's disruptive effects. They don't really care about the level modulation. The looking at your opponent's hand with Rotary doesn't even really end up mattering against Sky Striker, right? Because if you see a hand of like Engage, Rhoda, Radiant Typhoon Vision, Upstart Goblin, etc., right? You're not getting any information because you don't know what's going to be in your opponent's hand. And you could make a similar argument for Radiant Typhoon as well. They just end up doing so much searching that it kind of doesn't matter if you see what they have. They're going to have a whole different hand by the end of it anyway. So I think that's a lot of the reason why these decks are doing so well. Now, I will say that Zodiac, Broad Bowl being unbanned, and more importantly, Rat Pierre going to 3, definitely did contribute to Radiant Typhoon doing so well. Of course, even though, Ryan Yu got first place with a pure Radiant Typhoon deck not playing Zodiac, the vast majority of these lists are going to be on the Zodiac engine. So that definitely helped contribute as well. However, I don't necessarily think that either Radiant Typhoon or Sky Striker deserve hits. Sky Striker especially, as Kewl Tune gets hit more and more and starts to get weaker and weaker, you are naturally going to see less and less Sky Striker in the meta. I think Radiant Typhoon is ultimately going to end up falling off a little bit in terms of power level as well. Not falling off entirely, like these decks will not be entirely irrelevant. However, I don't think they need hits just because they, are the second and third best performing decks behind Kewl Tune. I think if you had to hit a card from Radiant Typhoon, limiting Vision to 1 makes sense to me, right? Because it's not just a card that sees play in Radiant Typhoon, but literally any deck that has a critical mass of quick play spells, be it Sky Striker, Runic, I've seen Memento on it, etc., etc. But also, is that big of a deal? Because before I recorded this video, I was kind of thinking about this, oh, does Radiant Typhoon need hits, and if so, what? I don't think limiting Eldum or Swen really does anything. I mean, it hurts pure Radiant Typhoon / Zodiac Radiant Typhoon, I guess, but if you're worried about Eldum and Swen being splashable, most builds that are splashing them like Sky Striker like this or Malice are only playing 1 copy of each anyway, and I don't think this engine is so strong that either of these cards deserve to get banned. That's way too harsh. So really, I think the only Radiant Typhoon card I could see being hit at all is, again, Vision going to 1. But when I stop and think about, like, Vision occasionally getting the draw to discard 1 in something like Sky Striker, I'm like, is that really that big of a deal? Is that really hurting the meta that badly? And I'm inclined to say no, it's not. And then, yeah, I think about the rest of just Radiant Typhoon as an archetype. I don't really think anything else deserves to get hit. Maybe Chant to 1, like maybe you can make an argument for that. I know that a lot of these builds that splash 1 Eldam Swen do still play Chant, so I guess maybe you could limit that instead of Vision. But again, I don't think that's that big of a deal, personally. I don't think it's so big of a deal that that engine exists. I think Kewl Tune is really the big problem here, which again, as we saw, did get addressed. Of course, there is the elephant in the room of Phydraulis Harmonia. Once that comes out, Kewl Tune and many other synchro-based decks are going to get a lot better. I don't know. I guess that depends when Phydraulis Harmonia comes out. It could be that they rush to limit so many Kewl Tune cards because it's about to drop. I guess we'll have to see. To be fair, though, Phydraulis Harmonia is a very powerful hand trap, but doesn't do a lot to actually advance the board state of a deck like Kewl Tune. So even if Kewl Tune does get Phydraulis Harmonia, it'll still definitely notice these hits. But obviously, Phydraulis Harmonia will be a huge buff to that deck, especially going second, obviously being a hand trap type effect, right? So I guess we'll have to just see what the future has in store. All in all, I think this list is okay. It's also really important to remember that they usually do wait until after the World Championships have finished to have like a long or like a more lengthy ban list, right, with more hits. However, in terms of like, you know, focused hits that are directly affecting the current meta, this is about as impactful as a lot of, you know, larger ban lists that we've had in the past, but not quite there. Again, I think this ban list is fine. I think Rotary to 1 is great. I think Super Poly to 2 is great. And I don't really care about Hyper Librarian going to 3. And these two, I'm like, it's fine. But again, I personally think Kewl Tune Synchro should have gone to 1. I think that would have been the better hit, but that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got to say about the ban list for now. So thank you so very much for watching this video. Super appreciate it. And the support of watching all the way to the very end really does help out smaller YouTube channels like myself. But that's all I got for you for now. Let's move on to the outro. So now we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.